she looked up like Game of Thrones or whatever, and it came up with that photo, and then she was like, "What's your name?"
Sir Duncan the Tall.
Never heard of him.
Do you know every knight in the Seven Kingdoms then?
The good ones.
I am in love with the show so far. I cannot wait to see more from you two. At the heart of this show is a two-person journey, though, and I heard that you both bonded while going to an arcade nearby. But did that ever backfire on you two, like maybe after a tough loss?
No, because we bowled together and we just would collect tickets together. The only
Together,
time...
I keep tickets though.
Yeah, I know, but there's like... everything's usually together apart from the odd game of pool and stuff.
Yeah, like I smash him in pool.
Well, yeah.
He's terrible.
Yeah, but his dad is an amazing pool player and he's just teaching him how to play pool. But no, it didn't really backfire. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I've been pretty annoyed at him when he says, because in all these interviews he keeps saying that he's a better Mario Kart player, but I'm sorry, but he's not.
Okay.
He's really not.
I couldn't help but think of the classic duo of Shrek and Donkey while watching you two on screen.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, are there any other famous dynamic duos that you can compare Dunk and Egg to?
Shrek and Donkey is
Shrek
it.
and Donkey, and I look like Shrek too.
It literally is it.
I'm auditioning for the live action Shrek and they said you look amazing. Batman and Robin, except Robin's real annoying.
Not Robin though.
No. I think there's a piece of Dunk and Egg in, I know it's not a duo, but like Legolas, Gimli and Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. There's a little bit of all of them in there. I think maybe, I don't know, Shaggy and Scooby? Maybe a little
Who's
bit.
who? No, because we're both not scared.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe I want to say...
That's a good one. I haven't thought of
Wait,
that.
how about Godzilla and King Kong?
That's fair, yeah.
Well, Peter, in the trailer, we see Dunk make this really passionate speech towards the tourney crowd, and Ira has praised you for nailing that moment. But what was going on through your head right before cameras rolled, and did you reference any other Game of Thrones speeches to help you?
That was a big moment because that sort of circled back. That was a huge part of the audition process and the kind of, I think, the day of in Lucy Bevan's office where it probably kind of solidified the role. Like that was a huge part of it. So when that felt like it was looming, when it was 3 weeks away, it was looming, and 2 weeks away and 1 week away, and it was quite an anxious time. And I knew I'd have to do it on horseback and kind of march up and down and deliver it. So yeah, to get that done was like borderline kind of an emotional moment. And I did something that I shouldn't have done. I took out my sword and took off on the horse and like went around the whole tourney and like got the whole crowd and everything. And the horse master Tom Cox was like, "Oh God!" But what's it called? Yeah, it was awesome. I didn't really take any speeches from Game of Thrones, but I just felt like it was like cringily was calling it my Braveheart speech. I suppose like that whole William Wallace, like the Mel Gibson speech of going up and down that thing, and I kind of wanted the movement to sort of feel like that. I don't know if I quite got that epicness, but I was pretty happy with how it turned out, and I'm glad Ira and hopefully George is happy with that for sure.
Yeah, I think also I was thinking about other duos, and I think I found a good one. I think Superman and Superdog.
Superdog, you're a great Superdog. Crypto, yeah.
Dexter, I want to ask you really quickly about you basically manifesting getting on this show because you took a picture on an Iron Throne while out with your mom. Did you ever end up showing that picture to George R.R. Martin?
No, I haven't actually.
Why have you not? Have you got it on your phone?
I haven't got it on my phone, but my mum has.
Debbie have it?
It was so weird how I got that picture. That was
We have to do that tonight. Like, we have to do that this week.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And what does it mean to you now to be on the show after such a crazy manifestation moment like that?
Crazy. I mean, for a while, even though I got the role, we didn't know about all that photo until my mum was looking for like a self-tape or something to send, and then she looked up like Game of Thrones or whatever, and it came up with that photo, and then she was like, and then we were like, what? And then we saw the photo, and it was crazy, and yeah, it's just so crazy how...
That is insane.
I just sat on it. I literally sat on it, and then I was like, ooh, this is fun. And then I was trying to, I promise you, I was trying to look like a king. Mummy said, My mum said, right, you got to be a king, okay? You're going to be a king.
Targaryens, they're incestuous aliens and tyrants.
So, Shaun, I want to start with you because Peter Claffey said that if he was going to join any of the houses of his own, he would want to be a Fossoway. So, for those who aren't familiar, what are some traits of the Fossoways that make them the best house?
I think it's just the heart and desire to be happy and have fun and make cider and enjoy the cider and be proud of what they do. And I just think the fun that Raymun wants to encounter, I feel like that's probably what Peter thinks. That'd be a lot of fun being with the Fossoways.
I love that. And it was definitely fun to watch you do that. And Finn, for you, that helmet, I mean, it's so unique in its design. What was your reaction to putting it on the first time and seeing it? How was the visibility in that thing?
Terrible. I remember they actually took a 3D scan of my head. So that is my face. Kind of like the nose is like shaved off and things have been kind of like, yeah. That is actually like molded to my face. And I remember being like, oh, ugly. Yeah. But I did think it was really cool. I think it is really impressive how good my stuntman, Zach, was at riding and fighting and jousting completely blind. There's not much you can see through that helmet.
Well, speaking of the fighting, there's some really great yet intense jousting and battle scenes. So what was it like for you both to be involved in those? Was there anything about filming those that took you by surprise?
I just think the attention to detail and the choreography of everything, and yeah, it was just mind-blowing to take part in it and get the time to do combat training, horse riding, and it's just like sometimes you struggle to call it work, you know? It's kind of like you're just having fun with great people in great places, and yeah, I feel very lucky.
Honestly, I know it sounds really basic, but the thing that surprised me is watching it all strung together because you have no idea when you're filming it. I'm sure obviously the people behind the camera and Ira and the directors and Robbie and she was doing second unit stuff would like obviously could see it all being cut together, but there's budget restrictions and time restrictions, and you're going like, how is this all going to cut together? And for my money, I think it looks so good. And like, and it, just the way that like camera moves with the sword action, and yeah, I just thought a very pleasant surprise watching it turn out like it did.
Absolutely. It was, again, badass. Okay, so forget timelines or anything like that. What Game of Thrones character would you want your character to hang out with if they could?
I reckon the spider, because I think he would just whisper things in my ear telling me I could be king and I should go for it, and I would do it. I would just do it, yeah.
I think who would I'd probably just say Ira Stark. I think that she's just so cool, and I think Raymun could maybe learn a thing or two from her.
I know I'm just a hedge knight, but sometimes I think there could be more.
I want to talk about the puppets because you are just such a big part of that set. They are so massive and intricate. What was your reaction to seeing them for the first time?
I mean, I had like this, probably the same reaction you had. I was picturing much smaller scale than what ended up happening. I mean, even up until like 1 or 2 days before filming, and someone kind of whispered in my ear and were like, "Oh, they're life-size puppets," and I was like, okay. Getting there and seeing like this huge dragon operated by like 6 people, I mean, it was amazing. So yeah, it was definitely like, it was fun to kind of interact and weave around these like huge puppets, and even like the human one that like everyone's got a little limb going on. Like, it was just fun. It was just like, yeah, it was like, you know, theater camp or something.
Absolutely. It looked magical. It's like it brought wonder to like everyone looking at it. So your character, Tanselle, and Dunk is very taken by her, but Dunk doesn't necessarily strike me as someone that has a lot of game. So what do you think Tanselle is thinking in those moments that she's interacting with him?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously he's like a kind of a goofy guy. He's like, personality doesn't really seem to match his physicality, but I do think she finds it intriguing that this man is presenting himself in this way. This is probably quite foreign for her. I mean, in the Westeros world, men are maybe not typically portrayed as Dunk's personality. So meeting someone that doesn't have this like initial bravado, I think maybe she finds a bit endearing and is interested in finding out more of his personality, but I wouldn't say there was like an initial like love.
Well, something that I love about seeing this series so far is like it's a good entry point. You don't necessarily need to have watched like other Game of Thrones shows or have read the books. But I'm curious, do you know of the differences between your portrayal of Tanselle in the series versus how she is in the books? What are some of the main differences?
I think like I got quite lucky because I think there's only, like 3 or 4 sentences on Tanselle in the books about her physicality and her personality, and then the rest is catered towards her puppetry. So in terms of like in the books, I think I'm quite similar. I mean, she's tall and I'm tall, and I think it says she's slim, and I think I'm slim. So, I think we have the same like general build. And so there's that, but then I also had the freedom to kind of create the kind of personality that I wanted to give her, and maybe like differ a little bit from what's in the books, while also taking aspects and kind of combining everything together to bring my own version of her that wasn't just like a direct replica, because I think that could get stale. What
were some of those characteristics that you wanted to add?
Sure, I wanted to kind of give her a on-stage, off-stage persona. Like I didn't want her to be like one note of confident on stage, confident off stage, to contrast, with Dunk. I mean, that could have been a choice, but I thought it was much more interesting to make her a small kind of confident off stage that maybe didn't necessarily match someone that would be considered a entertainer in this little town. So I wanted to like make her feel different and give her aspects of like interacting with different people makes her personality different, as like all humans are, and you don't interact with 2 people the same way. So I just wanted to like lock that in for her.
Boys, stop gaping. See to my horse.
I'm not a stable boy, my lord.
Not clever enough.
I so loved your characters in this show. You truly brought so much fun and levity to it. For Daniel, for you, what does it say about Lyonel Baratheon that his antlers are the biggest that we've ever seen on screen in the Game of Thrones universe?
Is that a euphemism?
He is not compensating for anything, I promise. Yeah, I think it's a good point. He's basically a man who says, who is sort of screaming like, look at me, I'm here. He's big and larger than life, and those things are heavy, by the way. I mean, I was pretty keen on them to begin with, and then it became very difficult to move around in them and look badass whilst doing it. But yeah, he's fun, and I think it was about trying to find a look that was kind of quite flamboyant and a bit sort of rakish. And
were you involved in the look at all, or did they just show you what it was going to be?
Yeah, I was a little bit, and I enjoyed that part of it. And I never want to like insert myself into a process where I'm not needed. But it was super collaborative, and like we played a bit with like the hair and the beard and the jewelry and earrings and all that kind of stuff, and it's fun. I like to like do little sketches and stuff and try and figure out what it's going to be. It just feels like with a character like that, his name's the Laughing Storm. Like you gotta find something that feels showy and flash, and once you found it, like it does a lot of the work for you.
Now for you, Sam, this is like the 3rd generation of Targaryens that we've seen on screen. So what makes this group of Targaryens unique from the others?
I suppose quite clearly their power is on the wane. It's diminished. There's no dragons to kind of provide the foundation to their autocratic ruling of Westeros. And so they have to be they have to deal with the psychological impact of that, which I think on a broader and more micro level is really interesting, how that affects them psychologically. And also I think I don't know, it's kind of when privilege is confronted by reality, I think that puts them in a really interesting spot. And then you get the same kind of ruthless streak, the same dysfunction at the heart of every family, but this particular family as well is really interesting. And then a level of kind of, spoiler, I kill. And so there is that level of intrigue that is derived from that as well, which I think is just it just adds to the kind of dramatic layers that exist in the show.
I ask you again, how good a knight are you?
I loved your portrayal of Baelor. He was like the heart of the show, also in conjunction with Duncan Egg. And I love that he's known for being wise and honorable. So how big of a sigh of relief did you let out when you knew you were playing a Targaryen for being wise and honorable and not an incestuous alien or tyrant?
Well, it's funny, isn't it, doing something where something is known about the characters before they've done it. That's kind of problematic. The key to storytelling is that you don't know what happens next. And for me, the key was that you shouldn't know how. You want an audience to hang on what happens next. It's like watching an animal. Will it strike out and tear to pieces the thing in front of it, or will it seek comfort and love? And so, yeah, I guess I wasn't so interested in what he would become as like going from moment to moment. It's moving because a character we might assume would behave with self-interest and draconian cruelty chooses to do what we might regard as the right thing. And I think that's a story I deeply, deeply want to see right now. I want examples of heroism and chivalry. And I like that in this world that is almost defined by its cynicism, that's so recognizable for that reason as very like our own, that there is a space for ordinary people to make a difference and for leaders who stand up for what's right. And I feel like something in my soul is enriched by that. Certainly when I read it, it was what made me jump for joy like a child when I turned that page. And I'm really pleased that when I watch it now, what's come out the other end of the sausage factory still feels like that. I still feel that childish glee when Baelor takes the field. And it's a great moment. And it speaks, I mean, everybody who I met who's seen it mentions that. I think for good reason. We're crying out right now for stories like that, and to see that that's possible. And this is a story, but stories are important, aren't they, to show us?
Absolutely, yes. And we need those moments now more than ever.
Yeah.
What is it about Dunk's character that you think brought out that side of Baelor even more?
I think it's even simpler than the fact of who. It's more a question of what. I think he sees the truth, and there's really two choices to be made. Do you let the bully win, or do you stand up for? This trial of 7 is supposed to be about judging who is right, and the mechanics of it mean that whoever is strongest will win. And I don't think Baelor thinks that is right. I think he judges wrongly that he can outwit his nephew and that he will back down. And when he doesn't, he can't allow the bully to win. And so in the nicest possible way, I don't think it's to do with Dunk. I think it's to do with the morality of the situation. And again, that's what makes me love this story. I actually find myself deeply in need of a story with a really strong moral compass at this point in our existence. So, Sir Duncan the Tall.
The show feels funnier, warmer, and just overall more than that classic Game of Thrones show. So what was your North Star for getting that tone right without losing the stakes?
Look, the North Star was the novella. George laid out a very nice roadmap for us and built a beautiful character, and like he does so well, a lovely odd couple pairing. And we just kept coming back as much as possible to Duncan, his POV. We have one POV, so we're gonna try and make the most use of it. All the way from our cinematography to our music, everything is informed by Dunk's POV and who he is as a person and as a character. He is a simple man. He is quite unpolished. He's gritty. He's earthy. I think would be a good way to put, that he's down in the mud and the and he loves his horses and he loves his trees and he's earnest and guileless. He's he's hopeful. He's a very easy person to follow on a journey into Westeros, whether or not you're a big Game of Thrones super fan or if you've never had a chance to sit down and digest. Hopefully you'll try with us and then maybe get into the rest.
Absolutely. I think that people, no matter where their knowledge is, are going to love it. I know I was like hollering at some of these gags and jokes that we saw in this show, but was there a particular one that got scrapped for being too over the top?
Nope. Nothing was scrapped for being too over the top. There were a lot of things that were ultimately scrapped that we didn't get. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. This very, very early days in the writer's room, actually, we had a conversation about where people go to the bathroom at a tournament. And we discovered through our researching and our researchers and our history that there were basically troughs just dug out in the wilderness and also sort of like ropes tied to trees so that you could sort of lean back and squat. And so we had the idea that, two people were having a conversation while they're, doing their thing. Then one of the, things comes loose and they end up in the trough. And so we got rid of that. See, we are not, degenerates. We've made a classic show here.
Last question. I know George R.R. Martin said that he challenged you with making one of the best jousting scenes we've ever seen on film. So quickly, if you can, just explain the challenges of shooting those scenes, especially with the mud and fog in Ashford Village.
I mean, well, look, the biggest challenge is that it's just dangerous. It's fake, but it's not fake. Every time you put your stunt guys down there riding those horses at that speed with those wooden lances, things can go wrong. We were very fortunate and our guys are the absolute best in the entire world. But you have to be careful. The showrunner in me wants to say, it wasn't perfect yet, go for another take. And the reasonableist in me says, good enough. Let's get everybody, in their jackets and everybody home. We'll figure it out in the edit. And look, it was a marriage of both of those. Rob Inch and Florian, who took care of a lot of that, who are our stunt coordinator and second unit director, as well as our first year director, Owen Harris, really just plotted it out, beat for beat, everything we knew going in, what we were going to get, exactly how we were going to get it. So there were a few surprises on the day. And look, when you're doing a joust at night, like the first one, when you're doing a trial of 7 in the early morning fog, it's hard to point the camera in a bad direction. It all looks badass, and with 10 people, with 14 people bearing down on each other, good things came out of it, and a lot of mud. That's the secret.